Hi, this is Tania, and this is Practical Magic, a show which explores the work behind magic, behind the people who work in the etheric realm, who practice the healing arts. We're talking about shamans, Reiki masters, tarot, psychics, intuitive counselors, energetic healers. And today we have with us Peter Jones, and he is a manual
therapist.
Peter, I'm going to start off immediately. You describe your work.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for letting me have the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you for coming.
I've given myself the title of manual therapist because I'm trained in quite a few different professions. My basic background is chiropractic. I'm trained within cranial-sacral therapy and massage therapy. So manual therapy just means that I work with my hands on people's body.
All right.
So that's what.
So it's a big umbrella.
Well, yes, and really then that gives you more of a scope of practice to be able to treat the person in the way that they need to be treated.
Right.
Because when you start putting your hands on someone, I always start physically, so I'm checking the full musculoskeletal system, but usually then you're pulled into a deeper aspect.
Right.
And I found that while working pure chiropractic, my patients kept coming back because their body would keep misaligning. So that's why I went more into the cranial-sacral therapy to understand more about the biodynamics of the body, and also how other aspects or the metaphysical beyond the physical can affect the physical body.
And does cranial-sacral then delve into that?
Yes, you can work through the fluids, through the nervous system.
The fluids in our brain,
our
spine.
We can start with that. So that was a starting point with the cranial osteopaths, was to actually find the movement of cranial bones in relation to the fluctuation of cerebral spinal fluid.
Right.
But then an orthopedic surgeon called John Opledger came along and started to look more within the nervous system and the fascial system, and how that can be influenced by so many different things, from mental state to emotional state. And then within the later works of cranial-sacral therapists, particularly the originator, William Sutherland, he started to look at the deeper psychospiritual nature of how the body holds information.
And how does, in your opinion, or...
Well, if you look at a flash drive or a CD player, it's a piece of plastic, how much information can that hold?
Right.
Well, we are living tissue, and that tissue on a cellular level can hold finite memory, as well as we are energetic vibrational beings.
Which can hold infinite.
Completely. We're holding hundreds of thousands of years of information from our ancestors, through society, through our cultures, which all come through us and influence us on that physical level.
So you started with chiropractic, and then you found that wasn't deep enough, and you went into cranial-sacral, and then you discovered that sometimes something more is needed, or something deeper or different.
Well, it came around after about 10 years of doing pure chiropractic. I started actually hearing what the body was telling me, rather than what I thought the body needed. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, I was going to, on this one client, I was going to correct a subluxation, and so I went to put in the adjustment, and I could hear the body say to me, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm correcting a subluxation to help nerve impingement." And the body's like, "Yeah, but I've got this." So I said to the body, "Well, tell me what to do." And it was at that point where I actually just realized it was better just to get out of the way, to let my mind, to let my ego get out of the way, and to observe and to allow the process to unfold. So it was that sort of time when I stopped trying to cure and started just caring for the person.
That's very...
It's a big shift, because if you're going in, someone's got, let's say, a frozen shoulder.
Right.
They're paying you to diagnose and to cure. So you feel you've got to do something.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, If
Plus
you can
you're
step
invested.
back and well, they're actually paying you.
Yeah.
And it's also an ego trip.
Totally.
If you can help someone, it's like, hey, great, I'm so great. But it's
Yeah.
like, hang on, you're not actually doing anything. The body is healing itself. You're only just putting in a few triggers to enable movement.
Right.
And really, the true nature of healing is motion and movement. You imagine a stream. If it gets blocked, it becomes stagnant.
Right.
If a gate is left too long, it becomes rusted and you can't open it. And it's a bit like the body. We get congested through our life-to-life's emotional, social roller coaster of survival. And so through that, we get blocked emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So really the role of a manual therapist is to find those restrictions and release to allow flow. Now that can be on a tissue level, it can be on a fluid level, it can be through the nervous system, it can be through an energetic level, but also it can be through a deeper level. We can call it spiritual. Let's call it spiritual.
Let's
it seems to be a great name
yeah.
to explain something which is like so vast.
Right.
So let me explain just basically. When I put my hands on someone, all right, I go in. And firstly I say to the body, I try and keep quite neutral.
Are you saying this telepathically?
No, I'm just looking out the window at the moment. I'm just looking at the trees. I'm just trying to get back into my space, get away from my mind, and just listen to these, my thinking fingers. So I put them on, and I just say to the body, okay, just show me what you want me to see. Back in the day, I would have been feeling the fluctuation of cerebral spinal fluid, or the motility of the tissue, or the potency of the energy. But really now I just put my hands on, and I just say, show me what you want me to see. And usually, it's like this. It's like the ocean. It's like putting your hands into the ocean. And firstly, I'm feeling this. Now, this could be the nervous system. Let's say this is the nervous system. It's all over the place. It's being influenced by so many different sources from the outside. Emotions, survival, relationships, all those stories that we're holding on to. It's making this nervous system so within the sympathetic, that fight or flight, doesn't know where it's going. Some point within the treatment, look, I'm just watching this, I'm not trying to change anything. Some point within the treatment, it drops to the bottom.
Right.
Complete
I felt that
stillness.
with you. Yeah.
Complete stillness. Now we can say that we're back at source. If everything is still, where does movement comes from?
Where does it?
It comes from source. It goes back to source. It comes from somewhere, goes back to somewhere. So we're there. We're there where it all starts. We're there
at the bottom of the ocean.
At the bottom of the ocean, where everything is still. Stillness is the most important part of healing. If we can get away from the mind, if we can be still, then everything happens in that stillness. And at that point we feel we call the breath of life. I'm just going to call it spirit.
Right.
And it comes in as the reorganizing phenomenon of nature. It moves through nature, it passes all the information to help evolution, development, growth, movement. And that's just moving around the body. Whoa, it's released that frozen shoulder. That was incredible.
Our spirit is what you're referring to.
Spirit. Spirit's the messenger from source. It's come from here.
Okay.
Oh, it's come from here. I've got no idea. It just comes from...
Right.
It just comes from nowhere and goes back to nowhere. It comes here. It's still. You're so still. You're in alpha. Am I asleep? Am I awake? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And at some point then, we come to the middle of the ocean, where everything is just flowing the way it should be. This is your movement. It's not this.
Right.
What's this? This is what you've become. And you don't even know it. This is your autonomic nervous system within the sympathetic. Whoa, we've gone into the parasympathetic. Rest and digest.
So we humans, animated by spirit, are dwelling in the middle of the ocean where it's not so choppy, right? And then when we're at the bottom of the ocean, where source is, when you do your work, we get really still, and then you start to sense some movement, and that's spirit
could connect.
Animating us.
If spirit's on its journey around you, then it comes. But remember, we are only but human animals who are aware of being aware. Look at a cat. Cat's sitting pretty still for most of the day.
Yeah, I can testify.
They're in stillness. It's all happening.
Right.
Only at the right point, they'll come more into their nervous system. Maybe flick an ear because there's something behind them, or suddenly they've got an internal feeling where they've just got to go and eat. So, within our human animal nature, we should be here for most of the day. Animals forever dropping down into source. It's just we have become distracted and we don't even know it. We're living like this.
Have we become, or are we always? Is that our kind of a condition, tragedy of being human?
Well, look, I think we've got a very inquisitive mind, which is our greatest attribute, and we've taken it to where we are now. Yeah. Whether that's good or bad, but we have an inquisitive mind, and we are where we are. We've used our mind. It is a fantastic tool, but it is a tool where people's minds become their distraction. They think what they actually are telling themselves is real.
Well, we think, because I just read the research today for my book, we think between 12 and 60,000 thoughts a day.
Wow.
And did you know 95% of them are repetitive?
Yeah, completely.
But, well, what I'm interested in is when you're describing the way you work and you're waiting for that, for the stillness, right? When the body that you're working on gets still at the bottom of the ocean, is that where you do your work then?
I don't do anything.
Is that where you facilitate it?
Completely. What is healing? What is a healer? We're all born to be able to heal. Healing is compassion and listening. We do it every day, or we should be. If we're really listening to someone, they're in a healing space. We've got a point of stillness happening. But within healing, it's like we are all born to bake, but we need to be trained to be a baker.
Right.
So that's why I've trained within a number of different professions, but also I was very lucky as well because my mother is a physiotherapist, but back in the 70s she became disillusioned with physiotherapy. There was too many machines and not enough people putting their hands on with the right intent. So she then in the 70s went on a great journey of exploration, getting weird and wonderful people around to my home, and I was lucky enough to be a guinea pig for that. So I've got to try lots of different ways, and so I really started my apprenticeship at about the age of about 8 of metaphysical work with my mother, and then even after chiropractic I was fortunate enough to work an apprenticeship with an osteopath for 6 years who I think the apprenticeships are something which is so foreign to us now. We go to a course and we leave the course and we think, wow, should I actually be out here? Where the apprenticeship actually gives you that time to actually be nurtured by someone who's been in the profession a long time. So again, it's all these different trainings, experiences.
So your path was one of apprenticeship, but also, and I know this because we talked before, but you have some ancestral. There's an ancestry to what you do. You've inherited some of your skills, whereas I know you say that we all have this capacity within us, and even listening. I agree with you. Some people call it holding space, where you're just there for the person in stillness. But you actually have a lineage in your work, right?
Yes, we all have a lineage of some sort.
That is true.
We all have a calling. Within our society, our tribes, we have our shamans, we have our teachers, we have our leaders, we have our protectors, we have our nurturers, we have our farmers. It's something that is deeper within us. That is our calling. And I think I was very lucky that, through my mother's or my matriarchal lineage, I was allowed to explore that part of my being. And you know, it was myself and one of my sisters came through in the lineage. She went away from the tradition, but is now working as a nurse, and so she found her own way through. But I think it was just very fortunate, because being born in Britain into a very conservative farming community, it was quite hard, because my mother was starting to teach. And she was teaching a lot of Eastern traditions and a lot of energy healing. And she was quite ostracized by the physiotherapy association, as well as she was labelled a witch. Which in those days,
England has a long, bloody...
Awful.
Yeah,
it was genocide, and the genocide was to wipe out mainly the wise woman, who was the herbalist, who was the... Yes, to make it more into a Christian patriarchal society.
It worked.
And so, we were... I spoke my own language, and I still do sometimes. As a child, and my mother just said, don't speak this language to anyone, because you're going to have a lot of problems. And I know my sisters were bullied at school for it, and...
People can sense the otherness,
yeah, that is slightly something odd about you.
Right.
You know, but I learnt to hide that oddness and got through my schooling okay, and it only came back later on.
The language?
Yeah, the language, that was scary, because
Did you know what it meant when you were talking it?
Yeah, I do. It's a language I speak when I'm talking to a particular nature spirit. So it's being honouring. These nature spirits have been confined to fairy tales. Right. Where really, you know, within most indigenous cultures have embraced the spirits. Yeah. Particularly nature spirits. And so when I was actually giving a treatment, probably about 10 years ago, I suddenly saw the spirit in this person, and I started speaking to her. I have to say, this is who I am, this is my lineage. I have to recite that. I have to say, thank you very much for showing yourself. And I'm being very honouring. Right. And then the spirit will then say, okay, I would like you to do this. But all the way through, it's an honouring process, and it's also ritualistic, because you're moving into a very different realm. You're moving into the extended reality. And so therefore that has to be ritualized and celebrated.
Oh, really?
Yeah, or else it just passes you by. Why do you celebrate Christmas? It's because you're trying to mark an occasion, or else life will pass you by and in a whirlwind.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So we need rituals. I bring rituals in on a daily basis. I get up in the morning and I have a cup of tea. That's my ritual. I don't do anything else. And then I make my children a cup of tea. It's become their ritual. And I'll celebrate, of course, the solar cycles and the lunar cycles, just to like slow life down a bit. Because I'm like 51. I'm like way over halfway. It's going very quickly. So I want to try and slow life down a bit more.
You could actually literally be at halfway, though.
Hope not.
Yeah, I know.
Shucks. I think it makes me feel very tired thinking I was going to live to 100.
Oh, I feel you. Too bad I wrote Ageless Diet.
Oh, I'll have to try it.
Yeah, you're dull. But if you want to be here till 100,
no.
You don't.
I'll stick to my fish and chips.
But I'll stick to my wine. I get what you're saying, though. That it seems that the world is more magical than perhaps we're aware of. But I think we think the magical world is massive sparklers everywhere and things like that, and
unicorns.
Right, and unicorns and things like that. But perhaps it's just kind of marking a spot or ritualizing, like the way you speak to a nature spirit, and you use some ritual, some practice you've devised that kind of helps you mark that and connect. And perhaps that's a way in for all of us, when we're out in nature, to find a way, because nature can be quite magical, right?
I think the nature spirits are quite happy if you look at a tree and go, wow, that's beautiful. Or a flower and say, what fantastic colours. And look at a view and be still and be present and just be honouring that really nature is our mirror. mirrors everything. If we can be in nature, if we can stand tall like a tree, we can be as solid as a mountain. You know, we can be flowing like a stream.
Are there
or warm like a fire? You know, there's it's there, it's around us all the time, and this is why I love Cape Town, because we are surrounded by 2 oceans. We've just got mountains all around us,
right?
But also coming away from Britain within that conservative,
cloistered.
I find because the majority of people are using traditional African medicine, particularly the Sangoma. And the Sangoma can be seen as the witch, can be seen as the shaman. They're the ones who have a foot in this so-called reality,
right,
and a foot in the extended reality. And so therefore it seems to be, when I started speaking this language and working a bit more deeply with people, it seemed to be accepted. When it first happened, I thought, that's it, I'm going to lose all my practice.
Right.
People are just going to think I'm a freak. But I still get clients. It's always just only word of mouth, and people still come.
Yeah. Are there, when you talk about nature spirits, because I only ask because a shaman I know in her 70s had mentioned that she was touring the Appalachians with a Tibetan shaman who was quite advanced in her practice, and they passed a pool of water and the shaman, the Tibetan shaman, said, there's a water spirit there. So are there, in your opinion, in your world that you've experienced, are there water spirits and
but I am what I think.
Right.
So if I think there is, then there is.
Right.
You
So
know, if you think there's not, then there's not.
do you think that there are specific spirits? For instance, that shaman Ellen that I was talking to, she said, "Oh, this plant that I have a little water spirit, or a nature spirit there. That's why it's doing so well, even in this darkness."
Yeah, and I think that spirit is, if we're all interconnected, that spirit is a part of us. It's part of our water system, and we're a part of that water system. So it's actually just appreciating that water isn't there to flush your toilet.
Right.
It's there because it's a life-saving property, and the planet needs it to sustain life. So it's looking that it's not a commodity.
Right.
It's that everything has a deeper significance that has to be revered. Because look at what's happened in Cape Town. We nearly ran out of water.
Right.
And therefore people had to stop looking at the water as a commodity and see it as something which is precious. Now, if that preciousness comes because it has a unique individual spirit within it, it makes it even more magical.
Yes, it does.
You know, so it's
Why
not name everything? Why not give everything some more meaning than what we've actually just made it into?
Do you, when you were out in Cedarburg recently, the mountains and the desert, did you experience experience this with nature?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time.
All the time. Look, I hike as much as possible
Right.
up in the mountains here around there, and I would say for the first 20 minutes, I'm just in my head, thinking about blah 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 blah. You know, that repetition of the chattering monkey. And after about 20 minutes, I'll see the view I've been looking at for 20 minutes and just be in awe. So it's just making sure you spend that time in nature. But it can be even just having a nice lavender bath, or listening to small birds sing, or making some nice bread. You know, it's all just reconnecting to that part of ourselves. Because we're only human animals.
Do you think that we can heal the water? Do you work in that way?
No.
No.
We need healing, not the water.
Okay.
Just make sure the water's flowing and in the natural cycle that it's always been for millions of years. You know, it's not the planet that needs healing. It's us.
Do you think that we can heal ourselves? Do you think in your work that, have you experienced that?
As a species?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Sorry to say. I'm just enjoying my moment while I'm here.
You
know, and just making the most of it, because we are, if you look at sapiens, we're very destructive. We've always been destructive. We've wiped out all the other humanoids.
Yeah.
We're wiping out so many species because of our selflessness. It's within our nature as animals. You know, but we are conscious, we are creative, and we are intelligent. And if there's enough people doing the same, I hope so, for the sake of my children and my grandchildren. Because we're quite on a destructive path.
How do you delve deeper into consciousness?
Finding stillness on a daily level, which is quite hard because we are extremely distracted, particularly now with the age of technology.
How do you find stillness then?
Nature. Nature's my constant reminder. I can look out of into this garden and just look at some beautiful trees, look at the birds, hear them singing. I might hear a child laughing in the background.
And that...
I might hear, it's always there. You just need to tap into it. And our problem is these cell phones. This is the most destructive thing that we've created.
You're talking about my lover there.
No, you see, this has become your biggest distraction.
Right.
Those moments where you could just be sitting at the bus stop, just watching life pass by, you get it out because you're wanting to distract your mind.
Yeah.
We're not used to finding stillness, and we kind of stare at every possible moment. Every breath is a still point.
Do you think in your work, are you operating when you work from a place of stillness, or are you...
No, I do this 8 hours a day. 5 days a week, 50 weeks of the year.
So
there's certain times when I think about what
Right.
am I going to cook my dinner
Yeah.
for my kids for dinner? You know, how am I going to make enough money to pay my rent?
Right.
You know, so it's still going on, but at that point I have to also say, oh, I can't feel what's going on in this person. So I look outside, I look at the tree, bring myself back to my breath, and focus. But yeah, I'm a human. My mind's forever trying to be top dog and be like center of attention, and I've just got to keep daily working on it through meditation, through Tai Chi, through yoga, through different practices, through birding. I've got into birding, where you just go out into nature and you just take a pair of binoculars and you stare at a bush for the day, and you just stare at that bush until a little bird comes along, and it's like so exciting, that moment, and then it flies off and you wait for the next one. So there's so many things we can do.
Do you find having a lineage in this work, the healing arts, and that you have I know you're not going to, I'm already going to preemptively say, please, Peter, bring your ego. I want to hear an ego answer. Did you inherit particular skills? And you know, it does kind of set you apart in an interesting way. I mean, everyone is special and unique, but your work and what you do...
I think so, because there's so much training you can do. There's so many outside sources that you can get information from. And of course, your practical, clinical experience is your greatest teacher. But there's certain times when I'll actually be watching myself do something and I'm like, where do you get that from? You know, might see like in my inner eye, I might see myself like a little video clip of me doing something. And then before I know it, I'm doing it. So, and that is times when I just think, wow, we've got such a wealth of information. Maybe that has come through on a lineage. I'm not sure. You know, what is intuition? Is intuition something you're born with, or does it come with thousands and thousands of hours of practice? Does a jazz musician sit at a piano and play with the rest of the band? No, they've had to do at least 10,000 hours of chords and scales.
But anyone can learn to play the piano, but few people are going to be, few people are going to be the best in the world.
Well, look, my son's a pianist.
Right.
And he's a great pianist because he's got OCD. So he can sit at a piano for 5 hours a day and practice. Where I am probably competent at what I do because I'm paid and I have to do thousands and thousands of hours of practice. I don't think because I haven't got the type of personality. I'm more of a jack of all trades. Which is quite a human trace to have, because back in the day...
It's a curiosity.
We would have needed a lot of different skills. where if there's a personality trace, this
Mm-hmm.
also brings into certain professions, like I say, my son. His OCD has been
A gift.
Yeah, fantastic gift for him.
I'm saying, what I'm asking you, or I'm telling you.
Ask me
Yeah.
for the 10th time.
Yeah.
Find another way of asking.
Yeah. Do you have a particular skill set in part because it's unique to you? I mean, that non-personality related, you've inherited this and you can do it. Some people are more adept at certain things. Some people, we're all psychic, but I've been to psychics and some of them are just...
Yeah.
And it, regardless of hours of practice, it does obviously help to have, you do have the 10,000 hours of practice.
Yeah, I think maybe, and also there was a time when I actually let go. I was holding onto that cliff with one hand, and there was a time when I just let go and just let it all happen. When I was born clairvoyant, I could see more than this reality,
Right.
and it was scary. So I just said, I would do whatever I need to do,
Right.
but only show me what I'm supposed to see.
Oh, that's
So when you ask that question, I haven't got a clue because I'm not there. I can't think like that. I just do what I do, and it seems to be people seem to
respond.
people. I wouldn't say healing again is movement. So yes, some people do come in with that frozen shoulder, and chiropractically I might adjust it. They might come back again, and it might not be the time to release.
Right.
But that healing might happen on a different level, where healing is about a journey and movement. As long as there's movement, there can be that progression and the evolution and development and growth.
So, final question.
Oh, she's getting going.
You're just getting okay. I'll keep going.
Give me one more.
Well, I'll give you two more.
Night.
Does God exist?
Depends on your interpretation of God.
Well, I'm asking.
I was brought up in two ways. I was brought up within the English church, and I really didn't get that God. It was too judgmental, and I was also brought up in the Celtic way, which was about the appreciation of nature because of being agriculturalists.
Right.
And so that's when I started seeing life in all things. So if that's my God, that's my God. So it exists to me.
All right. That's a good answer. I would agree.
Thanks.
That resonates for me.
I've never said that before, so it's like, yeah, okay.
That's beautiful. And does evil exist?
No,
No. Okay.
just nature. If I'm cut down by a jaguar, I'm not going to take it personally. That's just life.
But if you are cut down by, a serial killer.
It's still an animal. It's probably just got a few more scars than the jaguar. I won't take it personally.
I might.
Yeah, but then you're seeing a human to an animal, where a human is only but an animal.
Right. What's the wildest thing you've ever experienced?
What, in my treatment room or just life?
Just life.
Oh no, I'm not going to go there.
Okay,
That's
in your
a bit-
treatment room.
Oh, every treatment is so different. But I remember when looking at so-called spirits, it was, I'd just been through an initiation into a particular type of energy, which we could call the mitochondria, which is like the powerhouse of the universe. And this child was brought to me, and she'd been abandoned on some rocks by her parents and left for dead. And when she was brought into my room, I saw this little blue light on her chest, and I touched it, and suddenly before me was the most scariest thing I've ever seen. You know, people call it muti, black magic. I've never seen anything like it. And in some ways, as you were saying, being born into a certain tradition, I just knew what to do, and I somehow absorbed it and took it to where naturally it should be.
Worshipped it.
And then I found out later the mother had used muti to abort the child, but was unsuccessful. So that was really freaky. That was like a B-rated horror movie. So yeah, I've just started.
And Muti, for our North American viewers, would be black magic.
Well, it's seen, Muti is seen is an African name for medicine, but black magic is rife throughout our civilization. There's a lot of people who are very jealous, who want power, and they use natural energy to try and get it. But it's just this is why the manifestation of what was created was scary, but it was only just a natural energy which is extremely powerful. Like I said, to me it's like mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell.
Where did that energy need to go?
Had to go back into the universe and stop being abused and messed around by people who are trying to get their own agendas met. It's a side of life I don't really like.
Yeah,
so,
I would imagine.
Maybe I should have taken another story because it's a bit freaky.
No, that's. Are you kidding? That's
It's B-rated.
blood and
it's
guts.
B-rated horror movie stuff.
But it's real life B-rated horror.
Yeah.
Okay, so this will be my final question then. Does magic exist in the world? Is there magic in the world?
Yes. Our greatest gift isn't just our intelligence; it's our imagination. We've got to go back to being as innocent as a child and seeing what really is, rather than what we've created through our thoughts.
What are you seeing then when you really look? Are you seeing energies, spirits, sparkles and shimmery lights?
And unicorns and sparkles and I love it. Yeah, I love sparkling unicorns. Now I see life for what it is. Sometimes I'll see a tree and I'll see the tree, but sometimes I'll look at a tree and I'll be able to visualize how it looks behind, from underneath, from above, what it was like before it was even there, what it's going to be like when it's not there. It's perception. So I look at the tree in all those different planes, all at the same time. That's quite hard to get your head around, isn't it? Yeah, it's just perception. Why look at something straight on? Look at it in all its attributes and all its dimensions.
So magic is perception.
Yeah. Yeah, you're responsible for the way you think. You're responsible for what you see. So just start seeing things differently. Become a child.
I think that's a practice, not an well, thank you so much, Peter. This has been such a pleasure to explore your practical magic.
Thank you.
Magic with a K, right?
Big K.
Yeah, big K. It's really, really been a treat. I can't thank you enough for your time.
Pleasure, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.